Welcome to the Great Divorce Podcast, hosted by divorce financial analyst and retirement planning counselor Andrew Hatherley. Join Andrew and guest experts as they help late-life divorcees build the financial and mental foundation for a meaningful future. There is life after divorce. Now, on to the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great Divorce Podcast. My guest today is Lori Hawkins. Lori is a licensed realtor in North and South Carolina with a unique focus on navigating complex divorce transactions. In fact, Lori has undergone rigorous training to earn the credential Certified Divorce Real Estate Expert. In addition to her expertise in divorce and real estate, Lori has a BS in accounting from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Lori has also completed collaborative divorce training through the International Academy of Collaborative Professionals, which allows her to work alongside collaborative divorce attorneys helping clients through the divorce process. And I'll refer you back to an episode of the podcast on that where we discussed the collaborative divorce process. Lori is also a sponsor of the monthly Second Saturday Divorce Workshop in Lake Norman, North Carolina. And if all that wasn't enough, Lori also hosts a podcast called Dodging Divorce Disasters. Now, I want to hear more about that later. Lori, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm excited to have you on the podcast, Lori. We know we've had so many components of the divorce team with us here. Obviously, attorneys and financial advisors like me. We've had therapists, mediators, divorce coaches, certified divorce lending professionals. So finally, we have a certified divorce real estate expert. So I'm looking forward to chatting with you. Before we get to the CDRE designation, I'd like to learn more about you and what brought you to the divorce niche as a realtor.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned in the intro, I do have an accounting degree and took time off to raise my two kids, and then also became divorced myself, became a part of the statistics. And I really didn't want to go back into accounting again. So a friend of mine suggested getting into real estate. At that time, I lived in Fort Mill, South Carolina, which is just right across the line and from Charlotte into South Carolina. So I got my South Carolina real estate license, immediately got my North Carolina because that's where I'm from. So I knew I'd have friends and family, and did that for several years. And then my real estate coach mentioned to me about divorce real estate, and it just perked an interest, and did some research, actually became certified or designated with another group. When I finished that, I knew nothing more than I did when I started after I finished the program. It was like a 2-day program. But then my divorce coach mentioned the Alumni Institute and Laurel Starks. And when I started doing research on her, I knew that she was the real deal. And I took the extensive program, like you mentioned, with her, and became a CDRE, Certified Divorce Real Estate Expert, and was asked to be part of the master program. And so I continue to do that. Every Thursday, I have to take classes to continue to be involved with that.
Yeah, Laurel Starks is great, and the Alumni Institute is really good. I did a CLE, continuing legal education presentation with
I was
the
there. Yeah, I remember.
terrific, and it was a very good experience, very good organization. So, Lori, tell me a little bit about how your work with your divorcing clients may differ from how a traditional realtor works with people going through divorce.
Oh my goodness. How long is it?
I know, I know there's a lot to cover, but
You
just
know,
hit the key points.
exactly. There is a lot. Um, just from the very beginning, systems and procedures are different. In a traditional realtor, goes in with a happy couple. that are agreeing on things and their end goal is just to get the house sold because they're probably going to turn around and put this money into another home. I walk into a situation that there could be a restraining order, there could be a domestic violence order. 9 out of 10 times, they are not even speaking to each other, even if those don't exist. So once I am brought into a case, I become the liaison between the two owners and even their attorneys, which in turn saves them money because they don't have to run to the attorney for everything. Because I don't charge for every email that's opened and every phone call and every text. So that's one of probably the biggest differences is just how I communicate with them, with each of the owners, without them having to be involved with each other at all.
Yeah, no, I think about when I work as a mediator with divorcing couples, I think your work as a realtor probably has a number of similarities there because, at the outset, I want them to know that I'm neutral. And so I'm imagining in some cases, you know, you want to avoid, in every case, you want to avoid the idea that you're taking sides with somebody or that you're sympathetic to the woman because you're a woman or whatever. So how does that, I'm curious, the neutrality issue. Um, do you find that you have to be a little bit more assuring to the male partner that, I'm neutral here?
Well, being a neutral third party, that is exactly what a CDRE is. And it does not take very long into the process for them to know that I really have both of their best interest in mind. Right up front, I let them know that as a CDRE, I am only allowed to do the sale of the home. Another way I'm different from a traditional realtor is a realtor sees a divorce transaction as selling their home and helping two people now try to find a home. So it looks like a lot of money to a realtor making commission off of 3 transactions, whereas I only do the sale to maintain my neutrality. I do not want to spend any more time with one side than I do the other. Even if nothing is going on, as far as like conspiring against the other spouse one way or the other, it's all about perception, right? I mean, everyone has to feel like I am on their side. And once again, just the communication. There's an in spouse, which is what we call the person who's living in the home, and there's an out spouse. And the out spouse always feels left out because they are not the ones that are dealing with everything in the home. So I make sure that from the very beginning, they realize that if I have a conversation with the in spouse, I've either had that exact conversation with them before or after because everything is identical, but nothing is in a joint text. There's never joint communication. There's never a joint text. There's never a joint email. All the communication is separate. So like I said, it doesn't take them very long to realize that I truly am a neutral third party.
When you say all the communication is separate, I'm curious because in my work as a mediator, I insist that if someone has a question for me and they email it, that they CC the other party. So do you not do that?
No, sir. No, sir. I do two of basically everything. If I send one text to one of the spouses, I send a separate text to the other. There's two emails. Um, the only thing that's done together, there's 5 or 6 points, depending on the transaction, of key points that I will reach out to both attorneys to let them to keep them updated on what's going on. Of course, I do those together. But as far as the two spouses or the two owners of the home, everything is done separately. If we get an offer in, I call each one of them separately to discuss the offer. If I have to go over any of the signing of the documents, I will either meet them separately or I'll go over it on the phone separately. So it's kind of a double-ended job for me, but that helps to maintain the neutrality.
Okay, so In divorce, obviously, it's an emotional time, and you've probably heard the term divorce brain, the difficulty of making rational decisions when emotions are heightened. Sometimes when you're selling a house, I imagine with quote unquote happily married couples, um, they're in a joint mentality that, yeah, we're selling a house, and maybe we're upgrading, maybe we're downgrading, whatever. But in divorce, quite often, one of the parties may not even want to sell the house.
That's how it is most of the time. And I am a very easy target because, like I said, a lot of times they're not even speaking to each other. They have a lot they want to say to each other, and usually not nice things, but they aren't speaking. And I am a very easy target in those situations. I learned very early to develop a thick skin and to not take anything personally because emotions are running high and they can't say things they want to say to the other spouse, so they say them to me, and I just let it run off
Yeah.
my back because I know I have been there, and I know how it is. This is where an experience probably helps with this too. The longer that I do this, and the more confidence and the value that I see that I bring as a CDRE to these situations. I am not there. Let's say that we get an offer on a home. I am not there to get the two of them to agree with each other. I am there to get them to agree with me. By this point of the process, I have earned their trust to know that I know what I'm doing and they listen to what I say and they respect what I have to say. So when it comes down to presenting an offer to them, when they say, well, what does she think about it? Or what does he think about it? It really doesn't matter what they say, what the other opinion is. This is my recommendation to you. And
Hmm.
so I get them to agree with me, which eliminates a lot of the conflict in that type of situation.
Yeah. And I could see that your experience as a realtor would pay off there because you have that confidence in taking the reins and taking the lead to try and bring the couple to a decision here.
Right, right.
So if people are having difficulty communicating, how do you coordinate things like staging the house, showing the house? That's got to be a little bit more awkward, no?
Well, not necessarily, because the in spouse is the one who really has to deal with all of that. I keep the out spouse, the person that's no longer living in the house, informed. But like for showings, the only person that can confirm or deny a showing is the person that is actually living in the house. The out spouse, I let them know that they're going to be notified. You're going to get an FYI text from the showing company that we have a showing scheduled and whether it's been confirmed or denied. But they do not get to do that because they don't know what's going on inside the house. Somebody might be sick. A child might be sick and they will maybe deny a showing. So they can't do that. So it's this that part of it really isn't that difficult. Where the difficulty comes in is if the attorneys have not stated up front, perhaps in the separation agreements or the court orders on how maybe repairs are going to be done
Hmm.
prior to going to the market,
Right.
onto the market. There are some things that can cause some problems, but that type of thing that you just mentioned isn't one of the big ones.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the financial complications because sometimes you may find that the mortgage is delinquent if there's disagreements about who should have paid this month, or as you say, repair cost or staging expenses.
hmm hmm I rely very heavily on their attorneys. A lot of this is not in my wheelhouse. It's not things that I have to deal with. These are things that have to be agreed upon with the attorney. Now, I do work, I can, not that I say I do, I can work very closely, even if this is not a case that I may even be selling the home, I do have attorneys and a lot of mediators that will call me and say, look, I'm in mediation right now. They need to sell the home. They have a realtor, but what is the best way? What's the best verbiage for me to be able to put this into the separation agreement? And I'm more than happy to tell them because a family law attorney is extremely intelligent. I give them kudos for everything that they do. But real estate is not something that they're supposed to be an expert in. I mean, we can't be an expert in everything. That's why we all have our jobs. And I have come, especially in the Charlotte and surrounding community, I have become the expert in real estate when it comes to divorce real estate. And they know that I'm a resource for them. And whether they're going to write me into the agreement or not, I'm more than happy to explain the market to them, what's going on. And because what they write in the separation agreement really all depends on what's going on in the market at the time.
Mm. Well, that's an interesting segue. What's going on in the market at the time? I know everybody, whether they're getting divorced or not, is always interested in the real estate market. And is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Is it going to be a crash? You always hear people say, "I'm not going to," and I've had many divorcing couples saying, well, he doesn't want to sell the house because he thinks it's going to appreciate, or I want to sell quickly because there's going to be a crash.
Mhm.
And nobody knows. It's like the stock market. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the current real estate market? Here in Las Vegas, certainly, we're starting to see more supply and more time on market. And I understand this is probably a national phenomenon. Of course, everybody says real estate is local, but I think there are some commonalities across the country right now. So, what are you seeing, and how can this affect couples that are getting divorced right now?
Yeah. No, it is the same here too in the Charlotte area. There is definitely more inventory coming on. Interest rates are very slightly starting to decrease, but even this small little amount are bringing by a little bit more buyers out. But because of the increase in inventory, and the decrease overall in buyers, the market is definitely shifting. It is not a seller's market anymore. I don't know that you would throw it into a buyer's market at this point, but it's becoming much more balanced, I believe. Buyers are not hesitant in when they're putting offers in, asking for closing costs and, home warranties and their due diligence money, which I know is can be local too. That's not necessarily a thing across the whole United States, but or earnest money, it is not near up to the extreme like it was, at one point in time. So
Right.
there's definitely a shift going on.
So, for divorcing couples, um, you know, is it a little bit more difficult to get them to cooperate on things like staging or maybe concessions, and of course there's a lot of money, we all know in a divorce there's a lot of money going out the door to pay attorney's fees, to pay for a second residence, whether it's renting or whatever. um, how are the financial constraints, or maybe the emotional constraints, how is the current market affecting that?
You know, I deal with divorce real estate in a much different mindset than I ever did when I just did traditional real estate. I go in with open eyes, knowing and assuming that money is tight because most people are now juggling two homes instead of one on the same amount of money that they were juggling the one. So I do not go in asking for a lot of things to be done, fixed, renovated, unless it's going to bring them a great rate of return for a little bit of money. And I tell them that up front because, there may be things in when I did traditional real estate that I would say, oh my gosh, it would be so much better if you would redo this bathroom. You're going to get so much more. And they may get a better rate of return on that too. But there is not money to renovate a bathroom when and this is typically, I know there's the exceptions, but typically there isn't an overwhelming amount of money. And they appreciate that. A lot of times they come in saying, we don't have anything. This house is going to have to be sold as is. That's fine. We just have to price it
Right.
knowing that it's going to be sold as is.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, you were talking about concessions and things like that. Um, you know, in a divorce, a lot of times people's backs are pushed up against a wall, and they are almost more willing to accept things because by the time they get to selling the house, a lot of the times it's at the end of the divorce. They're just wanting it to be over. I cannot even tell you how many times I'm just like, just do whatever. I just want this over with.
Right.
So a lot of times they're probably more willing because they want to get out of the situation than a family that really doesn't have to sell and can sit on the market longer.
Right. I know I've seen situations where the divorcing couple are selling the house and the in spouse, the one that's in the house, is being pressured by the out spouse to, you need to fix that hole in the wall, or you need to paint the, need to paint the inside of the garage, or whatever it is. It's not ready. And I understand, as is, anything will sell if you lower the price enough.
Exactly.
So
And
there's
I
all,
always, yeah, and I always go through. I mean, I have vendors that I work with. I have a general contractor that I work with that I call in and say, just give me a quote on this. Is it going to be worth it for them to split the cost of this, so that we can make it a little bit more presentable in our pictures and, things like that. And that goes back once again on showing them that they can trust me, that I am there for both of them, and that I am not going to ask them to do something that I truly do not feel like is in their best interest. And a lot of times now that I've been doing this for almost, well, over 4 years, I guess now, I am written into court orders and separation agreements because the family law community now know me, they know my value, and they know that I am going to take a lot of headaches off of them, the family law community, by just handling this part of it for them.
for sure.
So, because of that recommendation coming from their attorney, I already start out at a level of trust that took a while to get to. But now that I'm there, I see a difference because I don't have to go in and earn that trust as much as be consistent in keeping it, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense because I experienced the same thing as a divorce financial analyst. As the attorneys they're the legal experts. They're not financial experts. They're not real estate experts. And so I've had the same situation of, earning trust with attorneys, and I'll be brought in to help people before, during, or even after the divorce to move on with their lives. Now, I work a lot with older divorcees. This is the Gray Divorce podcast, which is defined as over the age of 50. And I'm curious if you're seeing, because a lot of attorneys I speak to are seeing a lot more of their clients in the not only the 50 plus demographic, but 65 and up. And obviously, a lot of people that I speak with are in their late 60s. Are you seeing an older clientele? And if so, are you seeing any particular um, situations unique to older divorcees?
Yeah, I do see a lot of this. And, I find it fascinating because it makes me wonder, like what, once you've been married for so long, why not just stay married? But I can do that myself. I mean, I was married for almost 30 years. I mean, you would think at 30 years, you're like, why get divorced? But things happen. And so I completely understand that. But as far as what I do, there's not a lot of difference in it because a lot of probably what would be the difference would be what the attorneys have to take care of, or someone like you would have to take care of. I mean, selling the home at that point is very much the same across the gamut as far as age go. Is there something particular though? I mean, that
I'm
is,
wondering, did you say at the outset that you don't get involved in purchasing, working as an agent for the purchase of new properties going forward?
that's correct. I
Right.
only sell the home. If they won't, now let me take this back. As long as that transaction is open, until we actually close on that transaction, I cannot help them look for a home, do anything for a home. I can refer them. I have a lot of great agent friends out there that if they are ready to go buy a home, then, I can refer them out, but I don't help them. Now, once that transaction has been closed, the deed has been recorded, it is like my obligation to them is over and done. If they want me at that point to help them, buy a home, I'm more than happy to do that. I don't work a lot with buyers these days because my divorce business has increased to the point that I stay pretty busy, and buyers take a lot of time to go out and look at houses. So I more than likely would probably refer them to another agent that works with buyers a lot more. But I do definitely do that. I just closed on a transaction a couple weeks ago, and before it was closed, he said, "I can't remember what you said to me about if you can help me find a home, but I'd like for you to help me." And I said, "Just contact me after we're said and done here, and I'll be more than happy to help you." So
Right.
it can be done, but not in the transaction time.
You mentioned referring out to other realtor specialists, other agents. Of course, as a realtor, you can't you can't show a house, you can't sell a house in Alaska or California. I mean, there are logistical issues, but there's also licensing issues. You're
Right.
licensed in North Carolina and South Carolina. Obviously, this podcast is global, but let's say for the purposes of the United States, um, would you be able to, if somebody said, "Can you help me? I'm getting divorced in Tennessee." How
Mhm.
would you be able to refer?
Yes. Oh, most definitely. CDREs are all across the United States. I think the last I heard, there's between 300 and 400, I think, of us. And I hope that number is not incorrect, but I think it has grown tremendously. And I don't know necessarily that we are in every state, but we represent a lot of states. I mean, they can always contact me, but the Alumni Institute also has a directory on their website
Right, right.
that tells you every CDRE in the state, in the different states, and you can connect with them there. It has their CV on it, which is kind of like a resume. And so you can kind of go through, it tells a little bio on them. So, you can kind of go on and reach out to them directly if you're looking for one.
No, great advice, Lori, and I'll put the link to the Alumni Institute in the show notes of the podcast. And of course, you have a podcast of your own,
I
Dodging Divorce
do.
Disasters. Tell us a little bit about that.
You know, this has been so much fun. It's really kind of strange to be on the other side of this, you doing the interviewing, because usually you are me or I am you. Um, but I'm having so much fun doing this. And all of this kind of came out of, I do a lot of CLEs, continuing legal education classes for the Mecklenburg Bar Association, which is the bar for Charlotte, North Carolina and surrounding area. And one of them that I did is I was kind of the facilitator, and I had a panel of different vendors that, I mean, I had a CDFA, I had a CDLP, I had a lot of people that work with divorcing people. And I just thought they had so much interesting knowledge to give to family law attorneys. And I said to them, "Do y'all want to do a panel with me?" So I did one for the bar with the 7 other people, and I called it Dodging Divorce Disasters. And I just started thinking, you know what? This went over so well. The attorneys loved it so much. And of course, there may have been 25 attorneys that attended, and there are so many more attorneys out there. And I also see on Facebook in these mom groups, I see legal advice being
Hmm.
given to these women that are desperate for anything because they have been told by their husband that they are, he wants a divorce or vice versa. And I thought, you know what? I have gotten in with this family law community and I have gotten to know so many of these attorneys, and so I thought I'm going to start a podcast. So it is called Dodging Divorce Disasters because every one of us that work in the divorce field can tell you a story of some disaster that has happened that if only this had been done instead, they
Right.
could have dodged that disaster. And I thought, let's get this out to people before so that they can dodge the disaster before going through it. So I do anybody, family law attorneys. And right now I'm just doing local because it was just meant for just my little neck of the woods. Although I know there are attorneys and CDFAs and CDLPs, like you said, all over the world that could give stories. And I'm toying in 2026, and because right now I just do it on YouTube. It's not even on Spotify. It's not on Apple. It's not on nothing. I'm just a little podunk little podcast, but it has gotten such a great reception that I'm thinking, I might need to branch out a little bit more.
Do it, and get on those podcast sites.
I know I need to. That's what everybody keeps telling me. But, I do this on the side until I set myself up for success, which means probably getting somebody in here to help me, if nothing else, with the podcast and things. I think I'm going to kind of just ride out this year and then maybe take the bull by the horns and do it in 2026. That's my goal.
Go for it. Go for it. Now, speaking of your local market,
Mhm.
you sponsor a second Saturday, a monthly second Saturday divorce workshop. I used to do a second Saturday divorce workshop in Las Vegas. For anybody listening in your geographic area, tell us a little bit about the workshop.
Yeah, I love it. I am just one of the sponsors. There are a couple more of us that I'll sponsor it up in the Lake Norman area. And I enjoy it so, so much. It does happen on the second Saturday of every month. And every second Saturday can be different. Yeah, as the sponsor, as the leaders, you can kind of set it up how you want to do it. A CDRE is present every time. The same CDFA is present every time. But we do have a different family law attorney every month. We have a different, either a therapist, a divorce therapist, or a divorce coach that comes in. And I love it. I mean, it's in person. We don't do it over Zoom. It's not a hybrid. We do it in person. It took us a while, word of mouth. All of us would show up to do I think we're going into our fourth year, and we would show up and nobody else would show up. But now we probably have about 20 to 25 women that show up. This one is just for women. And I just love it. I walk away just feeling so good, not about what I've done, but just the information that is given to these women free of charge. And it is information. I know what I give to them about the real estate portion are things that honestly they probably would not get anywhere else if it wasn't for here because it's obscure little things that you don't think about
Right.
and you wouldn't think about unless somebody just said, oh, yeah, and by the way, property insurance. Oh, by the way, things like that. And they are so grateful. And I love meeting them. It's been a real highlight. I'm so glad that I was asked to be a part of that.
People are very grateful, and you can see the weight being lifted from people's shoulders when they get the answers to questions and that they've been given incorrect information of. And they come
Yeah.
in, people often come into these workshops with lots of fears because they've heard all these horror stories. And there are things to be concerned about, but the right experts, legal, financial, real estate, emotional, can say, yes, but this is what you can do to avoid that problem. And you can almost see the weight being lifted off people's shoulders.
And you would be surprised. One reason that I love it being in person is you see people exchanging numbers,
Right.
telephone numbers to stay in touch because they realize that they're not alone. A lot of the things that they're going through, there are a lot of other people that are going through the same things, and it helps to have that support. So it's been extremely satisfying. I love it.
Well, that's great, Lori. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. If any of our listeners in North or South Carolina would like to connect with you, how can they find you?
Yeah. Well, my email address is Lori, that's Lori, at divorcerealtorexpert.com. My website is also divorcerealtorexpert.com. And my cell number is 704-682-8753.
You're very
And
bold. Not many people give out their phone number.
you know what? As a realtor, my number is on the back of my car. So I do not think anything about giving out my phone number. That's funny because you're the second person that's told me that lately. I guess as a realtor, I
It's
don't
a
even think
realtor
about
thing,
it
yeah.
twice. My number's posted everywhere.
That's right. Lori, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for having me on here. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Gray Divorce Podcast. To learn more or get in contact with your host, you can visit Andrew's website at transcendretirement.net. Also, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Information provided is educational only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Each situation is unique and should be discussed with your tax or legal advisor prior to implementation. Andrew Hatherley is not an attorney and does not provide legal advice. Information provided is financial in nature. Advisory services offered through Hatherley Capital Management, LLC. Divorce financial analysis services offered through Wiser Divorce Solutions, an affiliated company.